So what can we do with strings? Well, one thing we can do is access individual characters by using what is known as string indexing. And we can also access a range of characters by using what is known as slicing. So how do we do this? Well, let's first start with indexing. Indexing is actually a common concept in programming, and we'll see this when working with objects other than just strings. And what indexing allows us to do is obtain a single element from a string object, i.e. a single character. So let's take the string hello as an example. We'll first of all create a variable called word, and we'll set this equal to the string hello. Now if we count the amount of letters in this string, we can see we have 5 characters. And a way we can see this is by passing our object into the built-in len function. So if we put len and inside parentheses pass in the variable word, we can see that we have 5 characters. Now obviously this is easy to count in your head, but let's say you had a string which was 200 characters. This would obviously be very manual, and a much quicker way is to utilize the built-in len function. Okay, so now let's say we wanted to obtain the first character in the string. How can we do this? Well, the first thing we need to appreciate about indexing is that an index starts from 0. So the first letter in the string hello, so the H, is at index 0, and we simply count up from there. So the E is at index 1, the 2 L's are at index 2 and 3 respectively, and the O is at index 4. So what would we need to type to obtain the letter O? Well, we can first type the string object we want to index, which is word, and we can then open square brackets after the variable name. Now to obtain the letter O, which is the 5th letter in our word, we need to put index 4. You can then see when we run this code cell, we bring back the letter O. Great, very simple. Now let's create another string object, and we'll store this in a variable called sentence. So we'll set the variable sentence to equal I love Python. Now following the same method, let's now try to access the letter P in the word Python from this string. To do this, let's first count the elements of the string object, and to do this once again we can pass in the object into the built-in len function, so we can put len, and inside parentheses we can put sentence. Now notice here that when we run this code cell, there are 13 characters. Now this is because the 2 spaces that are contained within the string are also considered as characters. So in order to access the letter P, we need to pass into square brackets after the sentence variable index number 7. When we run this code, we get the letter P just like we wanted. So just note here that any character, even an empty space, is considered as a character within the string. So hopefully that's easy to remember. Now there is also an alternative way to indexing, which is referred to as negative indexing. Now without confusing things, this is just counting from the end of the string back to the start. So if we once again bring up the string hello, using negative indexing would mean O is -1, the 2 L's are -2 and -3 respectively, the E is -4 and the H is -5. But the syntax would be the exact same in terms of accessing. So we need to put the object we are looking to perform indexing on, so let's put word, which we know stores the word hello, and if we wanted to obtain the letter O again, we can pass into square brackets -1. Running this code, you can see we obtain the letter O, and if we wanted to grab the letter H, we can pass in -5. And when we run this code, we get back H accordingly. So to index a string, we simply need to pass in the object name, which stores that string object. We can then open square brackets, and if we index normally, it starts from 0 and then increments by 1 for each character in that string. Or you can also index from the end of the string, which is referred to as negative indexing, where the end of the string is -1 and it goes back in increments of 1 accordingly. Now there are a couple of other considerations you need to keep in mind when indexing. You may come across an error if you pass in an index which does not exist in the object you are trying to index. So for example, we know the variable word does not have a letter at index 5 because it starts from 0 and ends at 4. But if we try to index position 5, you can see that we return an index error, telling us that the string index is out of range. So just note that if you do try to index a position which doesn't exist in the object you're trying to index, you will run into this error. The same goes if we put -6. We know we do not have -6 within the variable word, it ends at -5, so we once again run into this index error telling us that the string index is out of range. And finally, something else to bear in mind, what you pass into square brackets must be an integer. We can't use floats or other types, as it will result in a type error. So for example, if we put word, open up square brackets, and then put 2, but as a float data type, i.e. 2.0, you can see that we run into a type error telling us that string indices must be integers. So you can only pass in whole numbers into the square brackets. So this is how we can access individual characters from a string. In the next video, we're going to take a look at how we can access a range of elements, which is known as string slicing.